Hello everyone, and welcome to today's online session on Procurement Dictionary. My name is Ivana Ondruchova, and I work as a trainer and administrator at System Proibis. And today we would like to introduce another three terms which you can find related to the procurement field. And for those who are watching us for the first time, just a quick intro, why Procurement Dictionary? Every field has its own language and its own terminology, and procurement isn't an exception. However, terms used in procurement can be quite complex, and there are many concepts to familiarize oneself with. That's the reason why we decided to make a list of such a key terms and abbreviations in procurement, which is primarily built on practice of experts in procurement field. I will introduce you our two guests, those mentioned two procurement experts in a second, and I will tell you what are the three terms which we will discuss in today's webinar. The first one will be procurement policy, then category strategy, and we will finish up with the word digitalization. Okay, you can see it on your screens at the moment, and I jump back in and give you a quick introduction of our guests. I start with a lady, if you don't mind, Jan. I would like to welcome Klára Vavrečková, senior consultant for CN and NO technology at Deloitte Advisory. Sorry, welcome, Klára.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here with you.
We are more than excited. Klára is an experienced strategic sourcing consultant with specialization in SAP Ariba Strategic Sourcing Suite implementation for global as well as regional projects. Her focus is on sourcing management, identification of opportunities, developing sourcing strategy, and end-to-end executions. She has a great understanding of procurement processes with over 4 years of hands-on experience as a procurement professional in Tesco stores, as a CE buying manager, and prior to that as a sourcing analyst in GP or worldwide. So welcome again, Klára.
Thank you.
And as you can see, it won't be only ladies' business today. There's a gentleman joining us today as well. His name is Jan Hirsch. Welcome, Jan.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Jan, at the moment, covers a global commodity manager position at company Blanco. And just a quick intro about Jan's experience in procurement. He has built building experience in international procurement and logistics since 1995 and led procurement teams in both small and large companies such as Unipetrol, Kuka and Blanco. Okay, welcome, Jan. We're excited to have you here today.
My pleasure being with nice ladies.
I hope not only us will enjoy another 25 minutes, but also our audience as well. So I'm not going to waste anyone's time, and I'll jump to the introduction of today's terms. As I mentioned already, we have three terms ahead of us. From the procurement field. We decided to start with the procurement policy. As you can see on your screens, I wrote down what procurement policy stands and what it should work and for who. But I would like to ask our guests today, what is procurement policy for them? Because from our previous discussions, there could be a slight misunderstanding and misused with these terms, such as procurement policy or procurement sorry, I lost it now for a second. Procedures, that's the word I was looking for. So, Clara, from your experience, you mentioned in your previous engagement in Tesco, you were in charge with creating such a procurement policy. So, from your point of view and your experience, what is procurement policy for you, and what is it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So firstly, I would like to say I basically fully support the definition, which is here on the screen. Also, for me, procurement policy basically outlines and sets out the generic principles and standards which has to be followed. Purchase goods and services within your company. It should be always written, to be honest. And to me, it acts kind of as a Bible for buyer. It should be answering you on multiple questions like who has the authority in your company to make the purchases, what items can that person purchase, are there any limitations on the purchases, any approvals which has to be in place, also what are the business requirements to run competitive bidding, what should be the selection criteria to select your winner, if there are any NDAs, non-disclosures agreements, which you have to actually sign before you will invite your supplier for bidding, or how about contracting, if you can actually accept suppliers agreements, or you have to use the templates which are created by your legal department. So this all and much more about, for example, due diligence, if there are any due diligence checks which you have to follow when onboarding a supplier. So this all should the procurement policy answer you and should cover. So to wrap it up, for me, it's a guidebook for every buyer to understand what he has to do, which steps he has to take to be in compliance, basically, with his department and with his policy.
Thank you for that. And let me ask Jan what it stands for him from his procurement experience. And yes, if he also sees that the definition would work for him or he has it differently.
Cool. I couldn't say it better than Clara did, which shows there's no use for old men like me anymore, because I wouldn't be able to
You
say
don't
it
say.
in a such nice way, and I can only underline it, and I would even sign it what Clara and you said, Ivana. Also the definition you have there. To say it in humble words for people uh, less clever like me, I think procurement policy is like basic set of rules of the game. So the procurement is something that needs to happen in a company, and all the players, all the people involved, and even the holders of the stake, the stakeholders, shall know who's responsible for what and what the people shall do in their roles, what they can do, and how to proceed. And as Clara mentioned already, there needs to be a set of rules like when an ADA is necessary, when an supplier agreement is acceptable, and when not, depending on the size of the company, probably size of the purchase, size of the whole business. But in general, procurement policy, simply put, is set of rules how procurement process shall run or be developed within the company. In my experience, I've unfortunately met several companies who didn't have or follow the procurement policy, and later, sooner or later, it always comes to light, either by an audit by consultant companies like Deloitte or the others, or it comes to light with loss of money of the company. So I think it's a vital part of the whole company set of documents and rules.
I guess we can all agree then that a company procurement policy can prevent mistakes if it's followed and cost the loss of money and time if not.
Also, just to add, it can also prevent the loss of the procurement personnel, because I've already had in the experience sometimes cases where the procurement policy was not clear or the responsibilities were not clear, and then the procurement personnel was made responsible for the spend when or however they were not those who made the procurement decision, and those were not those who spent actually the money, because it's normally the technical departments or somebody else. So then you can have the best purchaser in the world, you can have somebody who has got loads of experience, but then you lose him because there are no clear rules, so nobody knows what to do, and people get fed up. So that's also a part when I think that a clear procurement policy will help the company maintain their professional purchasing team.
Clara, just a last quick view from your point when you work in Tesco and you were responsible for creating such a procurement policy. What were the problems you went into when you were creating, and because you mentioned that sometimes there were misunderstanding and involved, as Jan mentioned, that people weren't following what exactly the procurement policy stands for. So what were if you can name it, just a quick
Yeah, absolutely. So in Tesco they already had a procurement policy, but it was too generic, and I think that's the problem. You have to go, in my opinion, into the detail and really be clear on which documents are necessary when doing a competitive bidding, which rules has to be followed, so it's clear for everyone who is involved what to do, when to do it, to really be in compliance. So this is something the companies are struggling with. However, you need to start somewhere. So if it's generic on the beginning, that's I believe absolutely fine. It's a starting point, and obviously then you can ask yourself these questions I said on the beginning and try to answer them and develop the policy obviously over the time with experience and best practices.
Great, thank you. I think we can move to the second term, because we went through the procurement policy quite nice, I think. The second term today is category strategy. Category strategy management, something, again, you can see on your screens, something what should cover up this term. But since we have our experts here, I would like to ask them from their point of view and their experience, starting with Clara, please, from her point of view as a consultant with experience in such a field, what category strategy stands for her in terms?
Yeah, so I would just say that category strategies, in my opinion, should be developed mostly for really strategic items or categories. So with a significant spend, that it's where it makes sense, at least to me. And for someone, it can be just list of projects they are planning to run in the following year with targeted savings. However, it should be much more. In your category strategy, you should really show that you understand the category itself, that you know what are the drivers, so what are the future trends you are expecting within that category. And to do that, it's important to kind of and to develop, let's say, innovative and efficient category strategy. I think it's important that the buyer really understand what is the business requirement. So he needs to understand not only what's the category about, but also understand what are the company goals in the future years, because the category is usually set up for the following 5 years at least. So you need to know what is the business planning to do in these following years as well. You need to understand what is the baseline spend. It's very important to not only have a look on the current prices, but you should really look into the development of the price over the time, historical prices, what were the drivers again, and make some forecast based on that. Also, in my experience, it's very important to really collaborate as well with the stakeholder. You have to have your stakeholder on board from the very beginning, because it's joint target you have to deliver the strategy. And one last thing, or two last things, which are important as well, is it's not only about the projects and bringing savings, like let's say savings in terms of cost reduction, but it's also about the benefits which are actually not in terms of costs. So by implementing maybe some new technologies, you can bring to the company reduction of some administrative tasks, or you can get rid of repetitive tasks, or even maybe support sustainability, let's say. So this all should be definitely highlighted in your strategy, considered as well. And the last thing is to also understand who are the key players. So not only what are the coming technologies, but also who are the key players, who are the suppliers you should reach out to, try to talk to them, collaborate with them, because they can give you really good insight on what's going on, and help you out to even come up with those projects and ideas.
Thank you for. I was going to say you speak very fast, but also you can. But I think
I am also from Ostrava.
Okay, that explains a lot.
Gonna be it.
But still, the plus is that everything was well pronounced, so there's no problem that it's been spoken a bit more quicker than usual. Okay, back to Jan, please. Since Clara mentioned everything quite in detail, what's your point of view on this topic, since your background is from manufacturing companies more into this field?
Okay, I'm not from Ostrava, so I have plenty of time. Just to connote the old joke, old local joke. No, but I'm very pleased that Clara said almost everything that I think shall be part of a category strategy, or what defines a category strategy. So I'm useless, more or less, here in this conversation. However, I would just like outline that a category strategy, in my opinion, should be also like a formal but living document by which procurement professionals work. It's like a roadmap. It sets the goal where we want to go with the whole business and with the whole company, because it needs to show one of the basic elements is, and Clara said it, the assessment of internal needs of the internal customers, or of the business requisitions or the business requests, and where we want to get all of us like a company, or where the company wants to get. And then the category strategy shall summarize in a few other elements the knowledge that the procurement professionals have about the categories, like spend analysis, supply chain analysis, market analysis, even acrylic metrics or whatever. But then what is really important is to get the last two parts, which is actually the strategy, so what we want to achieve, and then the tactical part, how do we do it, how do we get there, which is the most living part of the whole thing. And in my opinion, the procurement professionals shall have like a buy-in or sign-off of the stakeholders of this is where we want to go, this is what we want to achieve for the business. Do you agree or do you not agree? Because you can have somebody, I don't know, in R&D or whenever, when they say, okay, but we are not continuing this product anymore, so don't lose time with it. But with the rest, they all get clear guidance or clear picture of what we are going to do, what is it where we are going to do, and we can also place like milestones that they can also, we ourselves can follow track of where we are, and the stakeholders can do it as well. So everything that Clara said, kudos to that. That's cool. I would just like to summarize it in this way. It's formal but living document.
If I'm not mistaken, you also mentioned during our preparation call for this webinar that you are working on a category strategy at the moment in Blanco. Is it correct, or was that?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you are right. I'm working for the category strategy for my categories.
I was just going to ask, since I did ask in the previous term as well, what are the most common problems you're dealing with at the moment? What you're struggling with? If you can, if it's possible to say it in one or two sentences.
I'll try not to say anything really secret and anything really sensitive for the company, but I'm mainly struggling.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm mainly struggling with an operational thing, which is the overall volatility of the market and availability of the raw materials right now, including the issues we have in transportation and logistics. But for the creation of the category strategy, I have like two main roadblocks. One of them is that most of the products that we buy are tailor-made for our production, so high specialty chemicals. So it's really complicated to find another supplier or exchange suppliers. So you have to really build trust and develop a relationship with the suppliers, which takes me to the other point that I'm facing, that my buying power, so when creating, for example, Krylich metrics, my buying power with my biggest account is 0.08% of their spend, of their turnover. So I think how much I am buying by them, how great account I am, but seen in real numbers, I'm not. So then it takes me to behave like a nice guy, try to pretend I love them and things like that, make friends with them, and trying to get them involved in my business, taking it more or less personally. That's where my old school experience comes in place.
That's a nice bridge to our third term today, which we should discuss, since I think everyone, not only in procurement, went through this stage that everything is changing, and not only with COVID, which is just the accelerator, but our third term is digitalization. Such a tricky word to pronounce sometimes when I try to say it quickly. Because we mentioned before when we were discussing this topic that Clara and Jan can compare how much it has changed dealing with suppliers and dealing in general in procurement. Maybe perhaps I start with this, since we still should be a procurement dictionary, and these two words also quite often happen to be mistaken with its meaning. As you can see on your screens, there are two words. One is digitalization, and the second one is digitization. Oh, here we go. What means what? The first one, digitization, is process of when, okay, I go again into human language again, so we make it, because you can read it on your screens. If John makes a copy and scan his signed NDA, and then he goes and save the PDF document in his computer, that's the digitization. But if John then later on finds out that he also can save this and upload this document on his cloud, and then can be used from anywhere and any time, that's when we move to digitalization. So I hope I made these two terms a bit more clear. And let's move to the term of digitalization back into procurement. What this term stands for you too, Clara and Jan, in the terms of what has changed, and if it's a thing which is good or bad, what it means to you lately at your work. If Clara can please start again.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm dealing mostly with the second one, so digitalization, where everything moved to cloud. As a consultant who is really focused on implementing new e-sourcing platforms, digitalization is something which is part of my job, basically. So that's what I'm dealing with, and I believe that it's also very closely linked to our previous topic, category strategy, because to execute your projects, to run competitive bidding, you will probably need to use some tools, some platforms to execute it, to run it, and for that you will get in touch basically with the digitalization itself, and you will use some supportive platforms for that. To me, it means that you can make a business, you can run negotiations just by using Teams or Skype, you can make POs or run the bidding, even close contracts, sign contracts by using the procurement platforms. And on top of that, you can also, for example, give approvals on received notifications just by using your mobile phone, because the procurement platforms often also support this ability as well. So that's for me digitalization. I'm a big fan of it, to be honest. And for me, it's a step forward for more maturity of procurement.
Jan, to you.
Okay.
Are there only pluses as well, or do you see any minuses in terms of digitalization
Well,
in procurement?
from my prehistoric point of view, I'm fond of new technologies like steam engines and everything because it makes people's life easier. What I would just like to say on the very beginning, it's very common in like Central and Western Europe, that those two terms, though very tricky, are very often mistaken or exchanged for one each other. So I know companies who say they are going for digitalization, but they only do the digitization just we scan everything and save it on cloud or somewhere, but the initial input is still on paper, and somebody has to deal with it with hands. On the other hand, digitalization sometimes only ends with the actual former meaning of the word digit, which is a finger in Latin. So it's like we use digitalization that we have our fingers to point to somebody. But I'm great fan of it. And I've started my career in times where punch cards were common and telexes and everything. So it developed beyond our actual expectation, and what happens now is like sci-fi you said it, 1995, when I even began in purchasing without an email. So that's great, and I'm really into it. I love the tools that are available through any of the providers. The data you can get about your suppliers without data mining and collecting it, calculating it on your desktop calculator or whatever, and get everything you want to share with your suppliers in one two clicks, which is great. I and you know me, I used to be, I still am a fan of electronic negotiation actually, because it's fair, it's more than fair, and then it makes even chance for people who are not really happy with confronting suppliers and being in conflict with suppliers by price negotiations. So there's loads of possibilities how to put it digital, make it very clear and very transparent. That's the best part in it. I love fair games, and it creates some little bit more space for like really personal development of the relationship. On the other hand, and you said it, what is the minus of it? I'm starting to think that people are getting lazy. So the part which made it fun for me, like going around, traveling, meeting people, seeing their facilities, they are now pushing me better back to Teams or Google Meets or whatever. and I'm trying not to take it personally because it's not of me, because of they just got used to it, doing everything online, which is great. We can meet you're in Ostrava, Clara's somewhere in Prague probably. I'm in Most. We can meet right now, talk about it, which is great. We didn't have to spend 2 days traveling, but still the minus is like it's getting less personal, and I believe that purchasing or procurement is a partially personal business. It's a relationship business. You need to create relationship, and it's not not achievable. It's doable, but it's very hard to establish a good personal connection over Teams and over your screen. While it also creates more demand on the people who work, because as we are talking, probably to all of our email mailboxes are dozens of emails landing right now, and everybody wants to have everything now. Because when in 1995 when I began, you had to send the offer by normal mail, post, envelope, stamp on it. So it took forever. Then you got it, and then you had enough time to decide, compare it, and reply back. Now you get it like 13:30. You get an offer, and at 1400 you have to be decided and go on with the contract. Your life is getting much faster with it.
I guess that's the only. That's the thing which we are dealing with across all fields, and not only in procurement. That the life is getting faster, and everyone expect for us to be reachable at any time. But if I go back to what you mentioned, that you find quite hard to build a relationship nowadays with your suppliers, perhaps COVID. Made it quite clear that now it's perhaps the time to really do it again and start working on it, because I believe there were in previous 2 years situation when you really got to know your supplier and their relationship with you, because when you run out of material and you were on a waiting list and only hoping that he will go back to you, I guess that's the time when we do speed up with everything what we do, but also I guess it's the time to decide that it's important to find the time and find the way back to each other as well, not only online. And I hope COVID will let us to do that again soon.
I'm glad you
Okay.
mentioned it.
Fingers crossed.
I'm glad you mentioned it. I actually thought I will not mention my favorite author today, but it's the time. Because you're right with COVID, because it's a like two-blooded sword, because it actually showed the employers that procurement work, especially strategic procurement work, can be done from anywhere. So it's great for people who want to be digital nomads, for example, or just want to stay at home. You don't have to sit in the factory. Actually, you have to meet the people sometimes, but you don't have to be there from 9 to 5 every day, because you can do your job from wherever, which is a great part. And thanks to COVID, the employers actually started to understand it, that not everybody has to sit in the office, so they can work and use their time freely as they will. On the other hand, I said people got lazy, got used to it, so they are not meeting. And then if you mention, okay, what to do if you're short of material, and the only thing you can do is like write to your suppliers and trying to prioritize you over the other customers. Then comes my favorite author, Terry Pratchett, that pen is mightier than sword if the sword is small and the pen is sharp. So it actually depends on how great you are in writing your emails and trying to establish phone calls with your suppliers, probably making like 10 calls a week, that they prioritize you, not just to get rid of you.
I'm glad that we find the time and the appropriate moment for Terry Pratchett, because there's always something which can be used. All right, I think we ran off successfully of our time. I hope we and you enjoyed the time with us, and that you appreciate being with us, and hope we see each other soon next month. And a big thank you goes to my today's speakers, Klára Vavrečková and Jan Hirsch, and I look forward to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you very much as well.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure for me to talk to you.
Thank you.
I thought you will say namaste.
That would be quite nice as well. Quite. Take care, everyone. Bye, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye.